Judson had a perfect APGAR score, which is, what shows their health. And his vocabulary and his articulation emerged very early on. He also had this incredible memory where we could sing a song to him and he might hear it twice and he could recite the whole thing back to us.
He was perfect. 8 pounds, 14 ounces, healthy, giant blue eyes, just great. He was walking by 10 months, hit all his milestones, was just, a perfect little boy. Did really well in school. He loved to play chess, just active and, wonderful.
When he was born, I just held him, and I had this overwhelming feeling of him just being an old soul. He was meant to be here. Marshall developed since birth and had for many, many months. We celebrated his 12-month birthday, his 1-year birthday. He was smiling, walking, talking. We would sit on the carpet from one end to the next, and he'd take 4 to 6 steps all on his own.
And then at 29 months old, so he was almost 2.5. I remember being at the park one day and he's running toward me and there was nothing to trip him off and he just stumbled onto the ground. And then it happened again and again. And that stumbling led us to go to the doctor, and the doctor said it's probably just something going on with his balance right now, he'll be fine. And the very next day I went to hand him his vitamin C tablet. He couldn't get his hand on it. And I remember immediately going, something's wrong with his eyesight.
Aiden was in 1st grade, so he was 6, and he started having some vision problems. We went to a retina specialist who said something was wrong, but they didn't know what. And finally, we went to the neurologist on a physical checkup. It took about an hour, and he said to us, I don't think anything's wrong with him, but let's get an MRI to make sure. That was the day that we found out, because basically the technician didn't even know what he was looking at. He had so much white matter on the brain that
And at 13 months, we really watched our son rewind. He was regressing in his milestones. He wouldn't walk anymore. And then his head would tilt, and we'd go to the doctor and ask for testing, and they would run blood work, and it would come back positive. And then before we knew it, his head was tilting, and the doctor, this was in a matter of 2 weeks, and his head would tilt back. Just no support whatsoever, and the doctor knew something was wrong.
And that set us down this trajectory of misdiagnoses. They first thought it was a brain tumor, then they told us some other things, and finally after several weeks they came up with the fact that he had a leukodystrophy. Second they said that word, we knew that meant it was terminal, and that everything we had read said there would be nothing that they could do for our son.
We had never heard of ALD, so we had no idea what ALD was. And of course, the first thing you do is Google, which is possibly the worst thing you can do. And, that began our journey into ALD, I guess, and what was to happen in the next couple of months in our race to try to save his life and do anything that we could to make him better.
It led to lots of testing. Our MRI showed abnormalities, and a few months later, after blood work, he was tested and with a confirmed diagnosis of Krabbe's disease.
it was impossible for me to imagine that our child could possibly be dying. We were literally seeing the deterioration in his body from day to day. One day he would be playing with a puzzle that he's played with for the last 6 months. And the next day he'd be reaching out his hand and he'd be having such a hard time. They'd say, I can't do it, Mommy. I need you to do it for me. And to see his frustration and his struggle and his pain and feel the powerlessness of that and know that it was only going to get worse, that there was nothing they could do for this to get better. And it literally tears at the fabric of what you feel like you should be as a parent.
It's grueling. You just, as a parent, wish you could take their place, right? I mean, you just feel so helpless in putting your child's life into the hands of these doctors, and they can't tell you what his outcome would be. Maybe I was in denial, but I just kept hoping he would come out of it, right? Every day we sat him up and did therapies and massaged him and talked to him and played music and did whatever we could, fed him ices and, just anything to try to bring him out of it. But that didn't happen.
I was pregnant with Michael when Marshall started showing symptoms. Michael was born as healthy as could be. Michael was 2 months old when he received his diagnosis. And at 4 months of age, after exploring all of our options, we found out Marshall was no longer a candidate for transplant, but Michael was a candidate. So we chose as a family to transplant Michael because of Marshall. The transplant and engraftment was successful. Michael is now 4 years post-transplant, and he looks absolutely normal. He's completely normal. You would have never known he had gone through a transplant. It saved his life.
I hope the future is that every state tests for ALD, for Krabbe, for MLD when a test is available. These children deserve it, right? All of our children deserve to have that. I mean, every child should have the same chance.
Newborn screening is the key to life for these children. Even if there are limitations right now, there are endless possibilities for the future. And what we have right now through newborn screening is 1,000 times better than what we have without it.
Without newborn screening, children are dying. Without newborn screening, my son is dying. Where newborn screening failed, children are dying. No one should have to see their child die. No one.
Help kids like us.
Perfect.
Yes. Let's go.
Wait, one more.